Hello, everyone, and welcome into Survivor Turning Back Time. I am your host, Stephen Levine, here with my co-host, looking as fine and fresh as always, Jared Sheldon. Jared, how you doing?
I mean, this is an audio medium, and I am incredibly sweaty. So I don't know why you're lying, and it's also irrelevant. But thank you, Stephen. Looking fine, and I don't know what the other word you used was as well.
I said fresh, but you know what?
Fine and fresh.
We're not vegetables, so you don't really describe people as fresh.
No, we're not vegetables yet.
Speaking of fresh, I wrote down my question, the thing that I would ask you to introduce what's going on to get the blood flowing. Have you ever had something? You ever drank anything that you've had that is just so off-putting, not bad, just off-putting, that you don't know what to do with it? Your body doesn't know what to do with it.
So in Chicago, we have a drink called Malort.
Oh no!
That you're well aware of, but
Yeah.
for our non-Chicago listeners. The official slogan of Malort for a long time was Malort, because those pants aren't going to shit themselves.
I don't think that's the official slogan.
No, it was 100% the official slogan. From what I understand, I don't know if this is a true story. It's still owned by the Jepsen family. That part is 100% true.
Carly Rae Jepsen?
Yes, Carly Rae Jepsen owns Malort.
Got it.
It's the second worst thing she's made behind all of her music. I'm just kidding. I don't know any of her music. But it's this grapefruit liqueur. It is disgusting. And for a long time it was sort of just unknown. It was kind of like a cult drink that some people would have very often, cult classic drink, not just a drink for cults. And a young marketing guy was like, I can get this to be really popular. You don't have to pay me for a year, but you have to hire me on. If this blows up. And the old lady's like, all right, fine. And he started this campaign on Twitter of Malort, those pants aren't going to shit themselves, and just made it into a meme, and it took off.
No.
That's the urban legend. I don't know if it's true. I really hope it is. What is true, and we'll put a link in our description to this video, is the original commercial, or maybe not original, a commercial for Malort that someone filmed of them pretending to film a commercial and trying to take shots of it. And they're like, no, you can't look disgusted when you do it. Or being like, no, you have to drink it. I have to drink it? It tastes a little different to every person who drinks it. I think it tastes like earwax mixed with grass clippings.
I've heard the word battery acid thrown around a lot.
No, battery acid would probably be more pleasant. And I wish that was a joke. Malort hangs around on your tongue for 20, 25 minutes. Ugh. It's vile. I make every person who comes to the city drink it. If you're listening and I know you personally, again, no, I don't. But I will find you. And I will make you drink Malort.
Ironic. The reason I bring up this question, because I have a buddy in town. We went to a brewery and we were talking about Malort. He knows of Malort. He sends me a lot of TikToks about Malort. So we're going to trick his friend into having some Malort while he's here. It's going to be a good time.
You've had Malort, right?
I have had Malort. It's
Great.
Not good.
Okay.
It's not good. But yes, he was introducing me to the Chicago handshake, I believe is what it was
yes,
called.
a Malort and either an old style or a PBR.
Yes, and then after you take the shot, you have to ask for another.
That's the reference to the commercial.
Is it really?
The tagline of the commercial is Malort, take the shot, I'll have another. And then he's trying to say it with a straight face without vomiting on the bar.
No. The reason I brought it up is because we were going down. We were at breweries. We were going down the list, and one of them was fell for the meme. Was the Pickle Rick beer?
Oh, sure.
It was a golden ale with pickle juice. It just intrigued me just enough that I had to try it. It was too much pickle.
Not enough Rick.
Not enough
pickle,
Rick.
Not enough Rick.
It was to the point that I'm like, do I just shoot this 4 ounces of beer to get it out of the way? Because I knew I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm a big fan of this, but I didn't think I was going to be that taste bud offended by it.
Sure.
Ugh.
I also can't think of a better example of a product, going to Rick and Morty, the Pickle Rick reference, a piece of media or anything that's like pretty decent content with like one of the worst fan bases that makes you not want to associate with the product at all. Mm-hmm. Besides maybe Cubs fans.
Oh. Whoa!
I'm out for blood.
Jared, if you want to talk to Jared about his Chicago sports references,
You can find me at Steve the Musical.
That's mine. Thank you, Jared. Anyway, we are the Survivor Turning Back Time podcast. We are going back in time. We are smashing the hourglass. We are dissecting every episode of Survivor, season by season. We are on episode 4, which it feels like we just started doing this, but I feel like we've gotten to know these characters a little bit, and it's warming my heart.
Yeah, maybe this is just because of the format we're doing and like doing a deep dive. But I feel more connected to the characters in this season more than I would think at least I think I would by episode 4 of a normal season or a 41-42 season.
I agree. It could be that we're not. You don't have that week of everything in between to kind of forget and to. Lose your short little connection, or it's just that we're taking copious amount of notes and really digging into these people,
and maybe sprinkled in how slice of life we get at times. You know, as I talked about a lot last episode, not everyone being in game mode all of the time means that we get a lot more human moments from them. And that's how we connect to people.
Oh yeah, and we've definitely got some on this episode, so it's. I would stop wasting time. Let's get right into the episode. Episode 4, Too Little, Too Late.
All right, so this episode aired would have been June 20th or 21st of 2000. So I looked up the week between the last episode and this episode, and a few things happened in that time. So Scotland repealed a law outlawing promotion of homosexuality. So it was no longer illegal to promote homosexuality in the year 2000.
I don't quite understand what that means. Like I think I understand what the context is saying. Like essentially decriminalizing.
Being gay. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a law. I mean, it's a one-sentence description on the On This Day website, but it sounds like it could be something that's intentionally broad to make just being gay in Scotland illegal. Who knows how much it was enforced by the year 2000, but either way, wasn't repealed until this episode of Survivor came out. Israel withdraws from Lebanon after increased UN pressure. And Tiger Woods wins his first U.S. Golf Open.
Oh, wins the first one?
2000, his first one in this week.
Do you know if that's his first major or just his first U.S. Open?
I think it's his first U.S. Open.
Okay.
Yep. And then the number one song at the time was Be With You by Gabriel Iglesias.
Oh, okay. Maria Maria didn't last a whole 2 weeks.
Nope. Barely lasted like 9 days.
Maria, Maria. Funny story about Maria Maria. That was one of the first songs I had to perform, like pop songs I'd ever had to perform in front of like a live audience. And if you know anything about the me that is right here in front of you, I shouldn't have been singing that song. It's not a good fit for the white skinny nerdy guy.
No.
So yeah.
It's not a good fit for like who you are as a person or your ethnicity or anything like that. It doesn't fit you at all. Also, that wasn't even the song last week. The song last week was one that I don't remember and neither of us knew.
Oh, okay. Well,
that was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Truth. Okay. Well, jumping into the episode, we ended the last episode with a tropical storm flooding the tribal council area. Toggy forced to stay. I kind of hoped that they would give us more backstory on what happened afterward. If this was a newer season, they definitely would have. However, we just kind of cut to the other tribe and how they deal with it, how Pagong deals with the weather.
And the answer's not well.
Not well. No. Everyone's real upset. Everyone's cold, wet, and covered in bugs. This is the breaking point for Gretchen.
Oh my god, Gretchen breaks bad. Also, she casually slips in, never talks about it again, but it's like, yeah, during my time at the Air Force Survival School.
I wrote that down too. I'm sorry.
What? Why do... I mean, was it part of the casting that they were looking for people with, like, Richard mentioning his, apparently extensive fishing background or spearfishing background? Gretchen with the Air Force Survival School? Was this... What?
They must have been looking for traits that you could bring into the wilderness to make it less of a liability for the show. They're not just throwing them to the wind. Like, these are intelligent, survival-capable people.
Yeah, and I wish we knew everyone's now, because it seems like most people have one then.
Yeah. Can we get a list?
Right, exactly.
What?
I don't care what their jobs are. Tell me what their weird niche hobby is, or niche hobby is that makes them suitable for surviving in Borneo.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to know more about these people. But again, most of this is pre-internet forms, internet, like, oh, I can just quick search anything. So there's not a ton of information out there beyond what CBS gives us.
You're saying that they didn't put their whole resumes on Ask Jeeves?
No, I believe it was... I believe it was before S. Jeeves. However, don't quote me on that.
If you don't know what Ask Jeeves is, I feel old. If you don't know what it is, I feel old. Not you, but the listener.
Okay. Well,
the person I've established a parasocial relationship with that is listening.
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Are you in your car? Watch the road. Just stop focusing on me. Watch the road.
Focus on us a little bit.
Okay, well, fair. Okay, listen to me. Listen to the sound of my voice. We also get the first introduction to Greg's nature phone.
What? Okay, I want to spend. We'll go back to Gretchen in a second because now you've addressed the elephant in the room. At least for me,
the beast.
I'll have what Greg's having.
Greg's having a good time.
Greg has lost his mind. Like I was this whole episode. I'm like, Greg doesn't even seem like the same human being. Like, he has actually gone insane. And listen, the Survivor Turning Back Time podcast fully supports committing to the bit. Commit to the bit until you die.
Absolutely commit to
Die for the bit.
Well,
and Greg commits to that bit.
He committed all the way to that bit.
I was getting a little concerned that he actually thought people could hear him on the other line.
No, but this is something he's talking in a shell, or he's talking to someone through a shell, his shell phone.
Oh, I just got that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
His shell phone, and he continues to do so in spurts throughout the episode. So as they're deciding to move their shelter, which Gretchen leads, he is finding moments to.
He'll stop working to do this.
Yeah, he'll go off. He'll make sure a camera is nearby so that they can film him talking on his shell phone.
Can you imagine being the person that has to hold the other side of the bamboo stick or whatever that you're using to like support the shelter, and then Greg's like, 1 minute, I have to take a call.
Yeah,
and you just have to sit there and go,
I'm sorry.
Okay, I guess.
What?
Okay, wait. Question time.
Answer time.
Okay. You're stuck in a room for 25 minutes.
Okay.
You want Dirk preaching to you or Greg on his shell phone?
Greg on the shell phone,
Yeah.
hands down. Greg on the shell phone, at least, is quality entertainment. I would pay to sit and watch him try to improv phone calls on the shell phone. It's interesting. It's bizarre and possibly concerning if you're trying to live with him in a normal scenario. However, from a pure entertainment standpoint, loved it.
When we get to Greg's Where Are They Now, if you told me that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Truly. Sorry, you wanted to talk about Gretchen.
Oh, I mean, yeah, just that, like, Gretchen is already doing all of the emotional labor for her tribe. Like, she snaps and, like, her tribe's like, like, so annoyed with her. I'm like, y'all, she was white knuckling y'all together through BB. Like, she is the reason that you survived the BB storm. She has been doing all the emotional labor for this tribe, and now she's the only one who's like, let's get this shelter off the beach so we stop dying to bugs and the elements. And they're all like, and sure, like, she's being a little rough around the edges about it, because of course she is.
Yeah.
By the end of this episode, it's day 12, and people are still arguing with her when she's gone to nature school for the Air Force and has to be the mom of the group too. Like, I'd be pissed off too.
Yeah, she's trying to reel it all together, and patience has left her. I feel like we're spiraling, and this may not end well for Gretchen. But...
I know, and it sucks, because, like, she deserves so much better.
Yeah. Sorry to keep flip-flopping, but I had one more note about the shell phone. Greg says his shell phone is relatively inexpensive.
I forgot about that detail.
In his scenario, is he paying for a cell phone plan? Is he... I don't know. That got me. It really hit me. Like, wow, you have gone full in on this.
I know, like, and maybe some people are wondering too when I mention all these background details about Survivor, but that I've only seen the most recent 2 seasons, because when watching 42, I was pretty active on the Survivor Reddit, but being very careful to avoid spoilers of other seasons, only staying in episode things. And people would provide sources to, like, things that go on behind the scenes. Sometimes old players would, like, chime in about stuff, or they'd reference old players, talking about, like, what the conditions are like. And they've mentioned a previous Q&A where, like, players have said, like, the biggest struggle that they face is actually just being bored. You have so much downtime and nothing to do.
Yeah.
So
a full-on month and some change, depending on the season, and you gotta, other than the challenges, other than building your shelter and finding food and water, you got all the time in the world.
And you probably, except for working, want to save energy too.
Yeah.
So you're not, except for going and finding mud volcanoes, you're there aren't a lot of time for like recreational activities. So doing things like creating a shell phone, I guess passes the time. It's probably, somebody points out, I don't remember who it was, points out that, like, oh, Greg knows what he's doing. He's sort of like the de facto leader of the camp. He's manipulating everyone. And I'm like, I don't think that's true.
Apparently people think he's an evil genius, and I love it. I want to see it. I want to see more of it.
Oh, I'd love to see it. I think Greg has 2 brain cells, and they're both fighting for 3rd place.
I think he's smarter than the cut gives him credit for.
No, that's fair. And actually thinking back about it, I would say, like, I feel that way more about, like, Sean or Dirk. I actually think that Greg's smart. I think Greg's just doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yes, which is a skill that I wish we all had sometimes.
True.
Speaking of ways to entertain yourself, going to going to Tagi, flipping sides, it shows us this dichotomy of Sue working her butt off, trying to provide for the camp, and Sean building a bowling alley.
Yeah, we see 2 very Midwestern. Gretchen and Sue both have very Wisconsin dialects. 2 strong Midwestern women doing all of the work for their tribe, and no one appreciating it.
None. Not a one.
It makes me so mad for them.
Sean built a bowling alley while everyone is like, you're building a bowling alley, but we have all this stuff to do.
Steven, I need one spoiler.
Okay.
I need one spoiler for this season.
Sure.
Do we ever get to see the bowling alley in action?
I don't believe so. Well, that may not be true. I don't remember it.
Okay.
However, doesn't mean it's not there.
I really hope it's there. What is Sean doing? What between this whole fishing pole thing and now it's like he's like, oh, well, I tried to be productive one time doing one thing. I'm done doing that. Bowling alley.
I think he's trying so hard to have a thing that...
Oh, he's having a midlife crisis on the island.
he wants so badly to like have this cool creative idea.
How is he bringing like Midwestern suburban dad to Borneo? Where he's like taking up bowling and fishing.
Yeah, that's the reason why the bowling alley doesn't really see any action on the show, is because next he builds a grill. They fly him out some propane. I'm 100% joking.
How's that grill you built, by the way?
It's lovely. Jared's selling me out. I am a Midwestern dad. I absolutely bought a grill. When I got back, I have an area for it now. I'm real excited about it. And in a few months, when this whole town becomes uninhabitable, it will sit there until next spring.
Oh, you can grill in the winter. We're going to grill in the winter.
I mean, yes. It's kind of like hot tubbing, where it's more exciting in the winter, but also it's freezing. Why are you doing this?
Well, anyway, yeah, no, I want to see the bowling alley in action, but like Sean probably won't finish it. He'll probably move on to something else next episode.
Yeah.
Make a sand convertible, build a grill. I don't know.
Sure. This episode jumps pretty quickly into the reward challenge. Because, again, they had to build something. This challenge is the, what do they call it? The SOS challenge. So they have to signal a plane flying overhead with their best, whatever that may be, to impress a plane driver, a drop expert, and Jeff.
We call this pilot, Steven.
Pilot, yes.
I just like roasting you today.
Sure.
No, I thought this challenge, again, really cool, really creative. The parameters were misleading. I was misled by Jeff. Maybe the contestants weren't, but it feels like when he's talking to the two people, who was it? The representative from each tribe. It doesn't really matter, I guess.
Jenna and Dirk.
Okay. When he's talking to Jenna and Dirk, he says like the most creative or something. He uses a term something that implied to me creative, if not just outright saying creative. And then when we see him in the plane, he's like the one that's most visible. And I'm like, Jeff, that is not the same thing.
Yeah. It could be one of those things that was lost in translation of the video cut, but yeah, you definitely want to make it clear that this needs to be visible, that this needs to be interesting looking, but this is an SOS signal. Someone from a plane has to, it has to catch their eye.
Right.
Which is a real interesting challenge. What I thought was most interesting about it, though, this challenge will come back in later seasons. I know that for a fact.
Cool.
Eventually, it will sunset pretty early in the Survivor history. What I thought was really interesting was that Jeff haggled with them what they wanted from the reward challenge.
Each tribe got to add one thing.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say haggled. He openly asked them what they wanted, and I don't know if that continues on, but it seems like that's a bad idea.
I mean, it's an added knife to the heart of the losing tribe, right? Because it's like you just gave the other tribe the thing that you wanted most in that crate.
Yeah. Oh, I want that. So Jenna asked for a spice rack. Smart. That is something that definitely comes back in reward challenges throughout the series. And Dirk asked for a fillet knife, which, again, I would have thought came with the fishing kit, but here we are.
You can catch the fish, but you get nothing else with it.
Yeah. Oh, well. So the teams go back and they brainstorm. And Pagong kind of seems pretty unified in trying to come up with ideas. They seem good at working together, whereas Tagi has much more of a conflict of ideas.
Well, yes. It seems like Dirk and Sean just want to shoot down everything, especially Sean.
Yeah.
Everyone else is having ideas, and they're just... this is why that won't work. This is why that won't work. And it is clearly grating on the other tribe members.
This is where I wrote the Battle of Wisconsin. Dirk versus Sue arguing about what will work. Pagong, we had this weird. Both teams kind of met at the same point of sex sells. And
Yeah!
Pagong openly says, sex sells, we're horny.
Colleen is so horny.
Colleen just wants. I don't even know what's going on in
I mean,
this.
jumping way ahead, but we see it in the preview for the next episode.
Yeah.
Colleen has forgotten there's money involved.
Yeah.
Colleen is just here to have a good time.
I mean, good for you. You do you. Whereas Tagi talks about putting on condoms, like bright condoms, and you're expected to see that from a plane a really long ways away.
I mean, I don't think there was a second step to that thought. And it was like, yes, bright colors, and it'll be provocative, and okay, great, we're no longer thinking about that idea. Thankfully,
Yeah.
I don't care how bright it is. It's probably not going to. I don't even think it was a real suggestion.
I hope not.
I hope not.
Regardless, this is kind of setting up these tribes in what they look like right now. Pagong is unified, good or bad. They like each other, and anything they do is going to be as a team. Tagi is, there are fractions there, and Rich mid challenge is thinking, oh, okay, I need to start making an alliance.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'm gonna do something else, and it's a little bit sneaky. And I'm like, what's he gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna make an alliance. I'm like, oh yeah, that is sneaky for this season, huh?
For season 1, it's kind of sneaky, but it's normal gameplay for any other season.
I know I said last time that this is the first time the word alliance was used was last episode, talking about a group of people, but that was more of an alliance of one vote. This is the first time that we really talk about an alliance moving forward, like as a combined group within a group.
So Rich wants to drag along Kelly, Sue, and Rudy into an alliance going forward. Rudy really doesn't want anything to do with it.
Which disappointed me. I really would have. I want the Rich Rudy odd couple.
Yes. I think Rudy just kind of, I feel like he thinks it's cheating, or he thinks it's against his morals to like create an alliance.
Yeah.
Which again, you look back at it, you're like, that's ridiculous. This is a game. Everyone knows it's a game. In season 1, they really didn't understand this, did they?
No, and I wonder if they actually much more forthcoming with not hiding who they were voting for.
Yeah.
And maybe being like not sneaking off of people. We haven't really seen people sneak off with people.
Nope.
Also, while we're on Rudy, I feel like Rudy just doesn't agree to confessionals, and they just come to him when he's in places, and he goes, "I'm not moving, but you can film me." Because every one of his is like, he was the one that was like, he's out in the water and it's like just his head above water. We've had 2 of them now where he's like at the campfire and it's this like weird low angle shot. And I'm like, they don't get Rudy to go off and do confessionals. He just talks and they turn the camera towards him and go, all right, good enough.
Yeah, come on, Rudy, just give us something here. And he does. For probably a brief amount of time, but he does. Yeah, so really that just leaves Rich, Kelly, and Sue to kind of figure out an alliance of 3. We go back. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's not the majority, but when you don't have another alliance going, any alliance is the majority.
It's
because
true.
They're all gonna vote whatever way they want, and you have 3 votes all pointed in the same direction.
If you can push any votes in the same direction, it seems like the way to go right now.
And they only have 6 people on their tribe.
True.
So you're at least getting a tie.
And I mean, if you can even sway Rudy a little bit, that's it right there. You got it. Anyway, back to the challenge. Pagong builds a giant smiley face, which is very visible. It's there. It's made out of sand, so no, not sand. It's made out of like.
No, I think you're right. I think they dug the sand out like a trench.
Okay. I'm picturing also like tree branches, but that may not be
true. I think they might have had some in there.
Okay, doesn't matter. It was brown on sand, so it was there. It was visible, but definitely could have popped out. Very large.
Yeah.
So it could be seen by the plane driver. Again, I keep saying plane driver. It's a pilot.
It's a pilot.
It's a pilot. I didn't go to pilot school to be called a plane driver. And Toggy made a giant phrase. Toggy is groggy.
They spelled Toggy wrong.
Yes, they did.
It made me mad.
It's on their flag. It's on. I'm pretty sure it's on their buffs. No, it's not, but it's definitely on their flag. And they also do a star made out of their bodies and their yellow ponchos, with one person in the middle. And really, that kind of wins it for them. Jeff is up with the pilot and the drop master, and they say that they come in, and it's a unanimous decision that Toggy is the better SOS signal.
Having moving parts helps.
Yeah.
Very subjective challenge.
Very subjective challenge.
And also imagine watching that, like, watching the plane go by, come back, go by again, come back, and then either drop the crate or not. Like, I don't know how long it took them to fly, maybe like 20 minutes between beaches, who knows. But, man, that must have just been excruciating.
Yeah.
To sit there and wait and not know if you're getting what's an incredibly valuable reward.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out, 'cause when I think of this challenge, I think of helicopters would be a much easier way to get around and to navigate these small islands. Mm-hmm. Just on the basis of turning around multiple times. But would they have the cargo space to drop something? I don't know. I wonder when it comes back. I don't remember the small details, if it's a helicopter or if it's a plane in later seasons. We'll find out. Anyway, Jeff tosses a big crate out of the plane with help of the drop master, and they don't really show a good shot of the crate landing. It's landing in the water, but it looks like it's landing in the water a really long ways away from the beach.
It was pretty far out there.
I want to say it was a good 200, 250 meters out, and they had to swim quite a ways to get it.
Here's your reward. Better get it before the current does.
Go get it. Toggy gets it. Everyone's happy. Pagong seems pretty defeated, though.
Yeah, I mean, they start infighting pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
I think Colleen says, like, I thought the smiley face was a stupid idea. And, like, they start turning on each other pretty much right away.
Which is a big turn from early when it was like, oh yeah, let's do it. Team bonding, and it's a mess instantaneously.
It's much easier to not protest the idea. I mean, you don't want to be a dirk. But that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that. It's much easier to sit back, not protest the idea, and then if it doesn't work, go, oh, I knew that wasn't going to work, than it is to be the one who has the idea. We don't know who has the idea.
No, it really doesn't show where the idea of the smiley face comes from. It just kind of, we get to that point.
It seems like it was, I think it was probably Greg, just because of the way that everyone else was, like, kind of put out about it. Maybe Greg's just a positive guy, but he seemed the one who was trying to spin it the most.
Sure.
Also, do we know if Joel's still alive?
They really didn't show much of Joel in this episode, did they?
Not last episode either. We just don't ever see Joel. I just was looking over my list of guys on Pagong, trying to remember who it was that was being positive. And I was like, oh yeah, Joel exists.
Oh yeah. Where did Joel go? We briefly talk about dynamics as far as Ramona is concerned.
Yeah, and I was so excited to see her, like, coming out of her shell.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote down, like, yes with, like, 4 or 5 S's, Ramona, because I was like, I was so happy to see it from her. She's been sick. She's had some social problems. It seems like she's a pretty introverted person anyway. Yeah. It seems like she probably has been pretty insulated from outside of, like, other people of color. Mm-hmm. She says she hasn't had a white friend since junior high.
I did. I wrote that. My Ramona talks about how Jenna could be her first white friend.
Yeah,
which
and
is really it's something cool.
yeah, it's nice and it's sweet and it's it was really nice to see her take that step forward and find acceptance in a place where she was really worried she was not going to find it.
Yeah, and I think uh, Jervis kind of sees this and has a heart to heart with Ramona because they briefly talk about how Jervis pulls Ramona aside and says, "Hey, I get like you're sick. I get that this isn't the most ideal situation for you. However, you got to figure something out. Otherwise, you're next to go."
Yeah.
The Jervis can see the writing on the wall and wants to fix it.
Yeah.
But weirdly, after Ramona says "my first white friend" about Jenna, Jenna seems to immediately throw Ramona like, I don't think Ramona. It's too little, too late."
Yeah, and this is also the first time we see a quote be an episode title.
Yeah.
And it gives away the episode too.
It
I mean,
does.
they put it in a question mark to be like, is it? But the moment that she said that, I knew who was going home.
Yes.
I didn't want it to be, but I knew who was going home once she said that.
They bring it back later. It's like almost the tagline to the episode.
Yeah. She says it again in confession, or at the confessional of the vote.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. Next up is the immunity challenge. This is the most Survivor challenge we've seen so far.
I loved this challenge.
There are multiple legs. It's a relay race. There are multiple legs. There is a swim. There is a floating bridge cross, which is by far the shortest leg in the entire.
Yeah.
But the person who does the floating bridge also has to row a boat back to shore with someone else. There is a sprint, quote unquote, sprint through the woods, and a digging a treasure chest up that is buried in sand. What did you think of this challenge?
So first of all, I'm surprised at the emphasis this season is put on challenges. It really makes me think of like the Fear Factor or the Challenge, in that like that's sort of taking spotlight in this episode. And they've tried to make it spotlight of previous episodes at times, but the challenge has just been not as intricate, so they don't take up as much time. No, I thought this was a really cool challenge. I haven't seen a relay race challenge before. I'm sure they come back because it's a pretty easy team challenge to do. I would not want to be the person digging for that treasure chest.
No.
That looked exhausting.
It did, and we'll get to that, but I feel like there was a reason that the team that won. Immediately you throw Sean versus Colleen in the swim.
Colleen is not a good swimmer.
I don't think that it was that she was a bad swimmer. I think Sean was just by far the stronger swimmer.
That's fair.
And I don't know, maybe you feel confident, or maybe you think that that's going to be not, in the long scheme of things, that's going to be not a very huge portion of the race. I don't know. I really didn't write anything about the log bridge because it's gone.
Did we even see it?
Yes.
It's so fast.
It's gone in 5 seconds. To which they get into the boat.
Oh my god, people. Row together.
Yeah. They don't know
Row
how
at
to
the same
a boat.
time.
People don't know how to row a boat. To which they get back to shore, and it is a race into the jungle.
Well, we got to talk about Richard's inability to break a bottle.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Couldn't get it through the hole of the bottle. And then I think it's either Sean or Dirk. It's always either Sean or Dirk. Is off to the side yelling, "Break it! Break it!"
Just break the bottle.
And it took Richard like 3 attempts, and he finally gets it. And then I see they're all barefoot, and I'm like, yeah, I'd probably be pretty nervous to do that too.
I don't know that you want to break glass on sand barefoot. Yes. They smash it, which gives Pagong a little bit of chance to come back because Jervis just takes that thing and smashes it instantly.
Jervis is so bad at challenges. For this guy that looks like he's in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
We've now seen 3 challenges in a row. He can't eat the bugs. He can't swim, and that's fine. He's learning how to swim. I'm not gonna dog him for not knowing how to swim. Mm-hmm. But then he also can't run very far. Like, he looks like he's going to die when he gets back to the rest of the tribe. Like, he just doesn't. It's like it was like me in 8th grade trying to run the mile, where you just sprint the first like eighth of it and then you're winded.
Yeah, they send these people off into the woods to run, and I feel like they undersold how long the run was gonna be. It, in my brain, I felt like it was gonna be like into the woods, up the ladder, down the ladder, back out of the woods.
And
Like it
home
was gonna
before dawn.
like it was gonna take them 5 minutes at the most. But it looked like they were running for quite a long time through through the woods.
Long enough for people to be able, or I guess which tribe, Toggy, to be able to dig the whole treasure chest out.
Yeah, they had to be in the woods for at least 15 minutes in total. I don't know if it was 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back. It was a long time, long enough that Jervis had to stop and catch his breath multiple times. Yikes! So yeah, Dirk clearly outran Jervis, which gave Rudy and Rich plenty of time to dig up the treasure chest. Jenna and Gretchen were the Pagong diggers, and they struggled too.
Yeah, what was Rudy digging with?
It looked like a shell.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, looks like a giant Newsies cap. But I was like, that wouldn't work. And where would you get it?
Yeah.
I could not figure out that was a shell. Thank you.
They didn't really give a good shot of it, but it was clear that they used a tool of some kind to get it out, whether it was found or what. But they don't address it. They don't say it was against the rules. It's just there, and they use it.
Jeff doesn't seem 41, 42, you see Jeff yelling a lot during challenges about, like, gotta do this, gotta do that. Clearly he is not enforcing any rules, because we see, I don't remember who, it's either Susan or Gretchen, I don't remember which tribe it is, like, drops the bottle, and one of them, like, keeps pulling the boat in, and one of them goes back to get the bottle, but they're not all the way at shore. Like, I feel like now Jeff would be like, no, you can't get the boat to shore until you get the bottle. You have to get the bottle, or something like that. And it seems to just be like, do whatever you gotta do.
He's more the rules stickler now than at the time. I did write down that this is the most silent a challenge has ever been. It was very weirdly silent for a long period of time.
The challenge dimension is going strong.
You see these people running through the woods and saying nothing, and you just hear the crinkles and the breathing.
I wasn't going to mention it again, but I'm happy to. It's so weird because it feels like footage that we weren't supposed to see. I say it every episode, but it doesn't feel like we're invited. Like it feels like a deleted scene. And it's kind of charming in its weirdness, but it's also I pray to God that season 2 Jeff starts talking during challenges, because I cannot do more than one season of the silent challenges with weird music over the top.
I need some commentary, Jeff. Please help. Toggy wins by what looks like a landslide. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. However, Gretchen and Jenna really struggled to dig up the treasure chest.
I meant to ask.
Yeah.
Did Toggy compete with one less person? Because
yes.
they had... Where? Like, did somebody pull double duty then? Like, in, like, row and dig?
So here's what I gathered, is that they weren't enforcing a sit-out bench. Mm-hmm. However, one person just didn't really have a leg. They were there in, like, the central area. They probably helped with reading the maps when they had very little time to actually read the maps, and I'm sure it didn't matter in the long scheme of things. But they didn't talk about someone sitting out. Mm-hmm. Both teams had 2 people digging. Both teams had 1 person running and
2 people rowing.
2 in the water.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They didn't make any mention of where that last person went. Because, let's see if we can figure out who it would have been. It would have... No, Colleen was
Gervais
swimming.
ran, Colleen swam, Gretchen and Jenna dug.
Oh, it would have been Ramona.
I guess it was Ramona.
Yeah, Ramona not really doing anything. Yeah, that tracks. Yeah, so Tuggy wins. Pagong seems like they're at this moment of we don't want to do this because they genuinely like each other.
Yeah.
Um, and they don't want to send someone home. Uh, Instantly, Jenna and Colleen feel pretty vulnerable with their mini confessionals. Jenna felt like because of the treasure chest dig that people were gonna view her as a target, which I don't know that that's an accurate read, but
Yeah, I don't think it. I mean, I don't think it is. We don't see anyone talk about her, and in Jeff's like pre-tribal council like narration,
yeah,
he doesn't bring her up as being somebody that he feels like is vulnerable. He just brings up Ramona and Gervais.
yeah. Uh, of the of the two, I feel like Jenna is the less weak of the players that could be sent home. But what do I know? Greg, and then I wrote down Greg is ridiculous.
I wrote down Greg is becoming the Joker. Like right in front of our very eyes. Like he is full on like what's his name? Joaquin Phoenix? I don't watch movies.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep, that's what it is. Joaquin Phoenix. He's full on going Joaquin Phoenix Joker, a movie I haven't seen, but I can tell that it's Greg.
And here's what we do: we take your cell phone and we kill the Batman. That's not Joaquin Phoenix. That's more
More Heath Ledger.
more Heath Ledger. Yeah. Also a little bit of what's his name? Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill too. I like Mark Hamill is definitively the best Joker. It's unfortunate that he has not done a live action.
Yeah, I mean Heath Ledger's giving him a run for his money.
It's true. I love Mark Hamill's. His voice acting is so good. I am so off topic. They Pagong off to tribal council again. I looked this up. It is a 90-minute hike to tribal council.
That's honestly not as far as I thought, but longer than it should be.
It's much longer than it should be. That I don't know what made you think that that was a good idea. Yikes.
I like sometimes with this season I'm just so confused as to what the thought process was. Like clearly nobody in the room when they were like, all right, it'll be a 90-minute hike from camp. Nobody asked why.
Yeah.
Because there's no good answer. Again, it's not a challenge. It's not something you can fail. It has to happen.
Yeah. It's your punishment on top of the punishment that you're sending someone home.
Right.
I think they fixed that pretty quickly. But before they get to tribal, there's this weird recap of who Jeff thinks is vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Jeff gives a voiceover, talks about how Jervis could be a little bit on the hot seat because he's failed challenges.
Mm-hmm. Ramona.
He talks about Ramona. He talks about someone else too.
Oh, he does?
That's what I'm thinking, but I can't think of it off the top of my head, so maybe not. But just this weird. It feels so out of place in today's Survivor that Jeff is giving opinions not straight to not straight to the people.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly feels a little bit like episode padding. Like they just needed a transition shot. I actually think overall, I haven't talked about my overall feelings on this episode. Mm-hmm. This episode has probably been the least engaging of the four so far. Mm-hmm. I don't. Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of padding, and not the fun slice of life padding. Just a lot of like challenge padding where it feels like we didn't need to we didn't need the shot of the plane going back and forth over and over again, or a lot of the Jeff interviews.
Yeah, upwards of 50% of this episode was challenge.
Yeah, it clearly not a lot happened on the island in these 3 days.
They needed to fill some time, so they have Jeff talk into a microphone about who he thinks is vulnerable. Then to repeat himself at the actual tribal council, Jeff comes in, asks people who feels confident.
Man, this was my favorite part of the episode. Was Jervis? I think I keep calling him Gervais. I'm so sorry.
I was gonna call you out, but I just didn't.
Nope, that's on me. Jervis keeps Jervis is the only one to raise his hand and say that he's feeling confident, and Jeff puts him on blast.
Yeah, he kind of says the same stuff that he says in the voiceover, that like, hey, yeah, don't you think that maybe you were the fault, that you could be blamed for the 3 last losses that you guys had?
And he could.
He absolutely could. It's tough to blame him on the race because no one can see what happens back there.
Sure.
But yeah, if you want to put him on blast, Jeff.
But it was, they're relatively tied until the race got into Jervis' hands.
Yep. I don't think it would have mattered because
I don't
think the 2 ladies were going to get that treasure chest up. The sand kept filling in over top of where they were digging, which is never good. Then he asks who is feeling vulnerable, and once again, Jervis is the only one to raise his hand because Jeff put him on blast.
Right, and he goes, now I'm feeling pretty vulnerable. That was hilarious.
It was beautiful. It was a great, nice introspective on who this guy is, and
yeah.
I really like Jervis.
Me too.
Jervis is a fun guy and a really good pick for this first season.
Yeah, and I mentioned before that he's bad at the challenges, and he is. He is bad at the challenges, but he's such a competitor. He's so competitive all the time, and in all of his confessionals, he's like, yeah, we're going to go out there, we're going to beat him. And then he goes out and puts up horrible performances, and then forgets about it the next day for the next challenge.
Yep. Everyone is covered in kind of war paint again.
I think it's mud.
It is mud this time. Yeah. So they're all in mud, and everyone is doing it. Unlike the last time where it was some doing it, some not, every single person had some form of mud on their face.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of like the regular kind of ick, because it's, maybe weird appropriation.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they're trying, if what they're emulating is outside of that little ick factor. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. A nice sign of unity in this moment of, well, you're about to send somebody home. I also noted that the soundscape of this tribal council is all over the place. That you kind of get into the trouble of people talking over each other again and not really quite sure on who to focus the sound on.
Steven.
Yeah.
They didn't have the talking conch.
That's... Jared, you were absolutely right. It's all about the magic conch. They gotta bring it back.
Bring it back.
You wanted it gone, it's gone, and now it's a problem again.
Again, yes, we could have just done the effect of the talking conch without having to physically hand out a conch.
Asking personal questions to have an actual conversation. What?
Not on my season 1 Survivor.
No, not in Borneo. We do things our way. And then we get to the vote. Ramona is... This is such a weird vote for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, yes, Ramona was the obvious choice. However, this is one that I feel like if people rallied and actually, planned anything, it could have gone a completely different way.
Get rid of Joel. Nothing of value would be lost.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Ramona is the obvious choice. Colleen was never going to go home because she's hooking up with Greg.
Greg would have
who everyone likes. Yeah. And I feel like Jenna has too much a rallying effect with people and keeps everyone's moods bright and all of that. And Ramona just started contributing. Yeah. I think the episode's aptly named Too Little Too Late.
Yeah.
But this is the first vote off where I've been legitimately sad.
I wish Ramona would have got more time.
I know.
I would have loved to see Ramona in individual immunity challenges, just to see, because I feel like they were hiding Ramona a little bit in these team challenges, like her not participating in the last one. I wanted to see what she could do.
Yeah.
And her social game was blooming. Her physical game we really didn't get to see. I wanted to see more Ramona.
Yeah.
Show me more.
She got sick early, and she probably starts really fitting in with the tribe a day before the vote, maybe two.
Yeah. Just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So Joel, Gretchen, Jenna, Colleen all vote Ramona. Greg votes for Jenna.
I didn't clock that. What is Greg doing?
I don't know. I don't
Greg's
know.
votes are always all over the place.
Jervis votes for Colleen, and I didn't clock who Ramona voted for. One of the two ladies got 2 votes.
I think it was Colleen. Yeah, no, it was Colleen because she really liked Jenna.
Okay. Truth. You're right. So yeah, that's 3 votes right there. I think had you planned anything, you could have swung that very easily.
Yeah.
I think you could have got Gretchen on your side. You could have got possibly Joel. I don't know. It just seems a little spur of the moment.
People accept their fate in this first season.
Yeah. Ramona kind of talks about it too at the tribal council, that she doesn't really know who she's voting for until the moment comes.
Yeah.
Which I respect from a standpoint that you like each other. However, it is essentially lying down and dying that you don't have a plan.
Yep.
Which just unfortunate. This is the part of the game that doesn't develop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll see some of it later in the season, but this is the part of the game that early scrambling makes for such way more interesting early games.
Now, you said something last episode that Stacy sued because
Yes.
part of her lawsuit involved this episode.
I jumped the gun. It's not this episode.
Okay, gotcha.
It will be coming. We'll talk about that. Okay. I have not forgotten.
Okay.
Because it's so interesting.
It's a teaser for later episodes.
It's so dumb at the same time.
Okay. Because I was watching this episode, and when I got done, I was like, what could he have been referencing?
What does that mean? Yes, stay tuned on that one. It's real funny when you go back and you look at it and you go, why did that happen? What made you think that was a good plan? Again, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Any final thoughts about this episode?
No, like I said, I think this is probably the weakest episode of the season so far. The first episode meandered, but it gets some benefit of the doubt because it's the first episode. There just wasn't a whole lot of meat on the bones of this episode, unfortunately. Bring back BB.
Don't bring back BB. How do you think Ramona would do in today's Survivor?
The Ramona that we saw for the last 2 days of her being on the island, I think probably is like a make the merge contestant in a lot of seasons. I don't think I don't know that she would stick out. Like I said, she kind of comes off as a more introverted person to me anyway. And those people I feel like tend to be maybe not the earliest of votes, but they tend to be like the big alliance is picking people off type of votes. She could end up being a goat that gets dragged for a while.
I don't see her being the person to make waves. I see her being pulled along by someone, being part of a group.
Yeah.
And I think that would actually do her a service for a while. She's not going to be a target. She's not going to be someone that, like, oh, I have to take this person out now, which I guess is pretty goat material.
But at the same time, I think she'd either be that or to give her a more positive spin. We've seen those types of contestants do well recently where they sit in the back, and obviously Ramona's very intelligent. Her career alone, the whatever type of biologist or whatever she was, and just the way that she talks to people, she's clearly very intelligent. If she understood the game better, she could be that person that pulls the trigger at the right time and propels themselves to a victory or a near victory.
Yeah.
That's in her range of outcomes. I don't think it's likely. I think it's more likely what we were talking about with being more of a goat that gets dragged along, just because of a kind of a lack of social game.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's your protagonist?
This episode was hard to pick one. And not because, a bunch of people stood out. Kind of because, like, no one stood out.
Yeah.
I actually kind of feel like Ramona, even though she was voted off, is the protagonist of this episode. Greg's a close second, just like he was last episode. A lot of the story seems to be revolving on Greg and his leadership of his tribe. But no, we really got to see like Ramona's growth and Ramona's story through the episode. And that might be part of the reason why this episode fell flat. Like I said, I was sad that she left, and I really like Ramona, but being a more introverted person, and it's really awesome to see that growth from her. But it wasn't, it wasn't explosive. It wasn't outgoing. It wasn't super extroverted. And there's just less material there.
Yeah. I think this episode was a little heavy-handed in its storytelling of, okay, Ramona's on her way out the door. We need to give her a lot of screen time. For good or bad, I think they get better about that because at the end of the episode, you don't want to know who's going home from an audience perspective, which is a real bummer. However, where are they now? Ramona is still succeeding in life. Like, Ramona is working for the same company she was working for, celebrating 23 years in 2020, so that'd be 25, assuming she's still there. Has a son, is a global chemistry project manager, and I caught this at the very end, is currently working with Survivor alums who are Black and people of color to raise awareness of the importance of representation in the show.
Good for her.
Honestly, good for her, and I think you see the work being done. This report that I was looking at is in 2020, when Survivor's kind of in a shutdown. Mm-hmm. You see this post-shutdown of, Ramona's doing good things to change Survivor 20 years later. That's so cool.
That's really cool, because she was only there for 12 days.
Yeah.
And those 12 days were so important to her that 20 years later, she's doing a big push to, spark diversity inside of a show that she, again, was only on for 12 days.
Yeah. Ramona talks about how didn't like the edit of the show because it fed to a stereotype. I realize that shows want to tell a story, but I don't think it should be at the expense of people of color.
Yeah, that's fair. That's something we haven't talked as much about. We mentioned it in our first episode, and know that it's something that Steven and I recognize. And as we go through 20 years of Survivor, we probably won't bring it up constantly because nothing changes for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that she put her voice out there and helped to do this.
Yeah, it's a slow change being made on a show that is on the air for a long, long time. We mentioned that we wanted to talk about the other two that were voted out because we didn't talk about them early on. BB died, what did I say?
2013.
2013, of cancer, and as far as we know, Sonia's still kicking. Sonia is a big fan of the show, apparently. Still watching 20 years later and still cheering on. Has choice words for the season 40 winner, which huge spoiler, so I'm not going to go there.
What, you're saying the winner of the all-winners season would be a major spoiler?
Yeah, huge spoiler. not talking about that. But yeah, that's about all I got.
We got to get Sonia on the show.
We got it. Sonia is in her 80s, so
okay.
As much as I talk with other boomer generation people through the internet, they don't know how to use the internet or Zoom or anything like that.
Oh, sure.
That is an overgeneralization. However, if you cannot turn off your microphone in a Zoom chat, I don't know what to do with you. It drives me up the wall. I am way off topic. So let us end this episode. Bring me the bumper. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Survivor Turning Back Time. We're so glad you're here with us. Thank you for hanging out with us. This is an hour out of your day, out of our day. I really like doing this. I like talking to you. If you want to talk to us, if you want to reach out to us, please do so. Our email, survivortbt@gmail.com. You want to reach out to us on Twitter, we are at survivortbt. You can reach out to me personally. I have Instagram, Steve the Musical on Instagram. Or if you just like you like hanging out, you like watching people play video games, come hang out with me on Twitch. I stream every once in a while at Stief Plays, SCHTEEF Plays on Twitch. Jared, do you have anything you want to promote?
Yeah, sure. You can send all of your BB fan art to Jared Sheldon 8 on Instagram.
He's a dangerous ass.
He's the he's the eternal patron of our podcast, forever in our hearts.
I'm gonna scroll back up to
To see his
see his picture.
Oh man, that's the least flattering
on
picture.
Our cast list.
Yeah. Except for Dirk's.
His eyes.
And then, I mean, kind of following in with what Ramona's doing. I would like to push voting. Midterms are coming up. If you're listening to this when it releases, that will be early August. Registration deadlines coming up depending on what state you live in. So get out there, vote. There's a lot of important things coming up.
Smart.
Yeah.
Have your voice heard. Speak out. Do what you want to do.
If it didn't matter, people wouldn't try so hard to stop you from doing it.
I like that. Well, that's all we're going to talk about today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Once again, thank you for listening to Survivor Turning Back Time. I am your host, Stephen Levine. For my co-host, Jared Sheldon, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your day. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
And don't do anything I wouldn't